In this module, we will discuss the terms of trade between agriculture and industry. Terms of trade refers to the ratio of prices of exports to imports between trading countries. There are large number of commodities which are exported and imported by trading nations. It is therefore necessary to make unit value index of exports divided by unit value index of imports. If terms of trade are favorable to a country, it means an increase in unit value index of exports compared to unit value index of imports. Commodities imported and exported are graded, which are accounted for in making index numbers. Percentage change in terms of trade can be calculated by dividing the index of unit price of imports divided by index of unit price of exports multiplied by 100 and deducting 100 thereafter. If index of unit price of import is 125, which means that import prices have increased by 25%, and if index of unit price of export is 105, that means export prices have increased by 5%. Export prices have increased at a smaller rate than the import prices. In other words, import prices have increased much higher than export prices. Marginal terms of trade for the year is 125 divided by 105 multiplied by 100 is equal to 119.05 minus 100 is equal to 19.05, which is the percentage change in terms of trade for the year of making index. If index of unit price of import is 105 and the index of unit price of export is 125, then terms of trade index would be 105 divided by 125 is equal to 84 minus 100 is equal to minus 16%, and the terms of trade would be minus 16%. Plus sign shows that marginal terms of trade have been unfavorable and worse, which means import price have increased more than the export prices. If volume of exports remain the same, the volume of imports for these exports would be smaller compared to preceding year. Minus sign shows favorable marginal terms of trade, which means export prices have risen more than the import prices. That is, the same volume of goods exported will buy more imported goods. After studying this module, you shall be able to understand classical versus modern methods and two-sector versus three-sector model. Understand manufacturers versus primary products and economic policies of the North and UDCs. Understand destabilizing prices of agricultural products and UDCs. Know adverse relation between primary products and manufacturers. We shall first discuss the classical versus modern methods. There is a classical method of calculating terms of trade. However, modern method of calculating marginal terms of trade, which has been adopted by UN, is different, which is to divide index of unit price of exports by index of unit price of imports multiplied by 100 and thereafter deduct 100. A plus sign in marginal terms of trade show improvement in terms of trade, and minus sign shows deterioration in terms of trade. If marginal terms of trade is negative, foreign trade is losing proposition. It is profitable proposition if terms of trade are positive. International trade is order of the day, and no country in the world can remain immune from foreign trade. Moving on to the two-sector versus three-sector model. Terms of trade are generally discussed with reference to developed countries and underdeveloped countries, and that too with reference to into sectors, namely agricultural commodity sector, that is primary sector, and manufacturing sector, that is manufacturers, although in recent years three sectors are there. Model has also been developed with the inclusion of service sector, but three sector model has been applied within a country and two sector model consisting of agriculture sector and industrial sector has been generally applied in foreign trade. Let us now know about manufacturers versus primary product. Developing countries are predominantly engaged in the production of agricultural commodities. Developed countries are largely engaged in production of manufacturers. Developing countries are exporter of primary commodities and are importer of manufactured goods from developed countries. Developed countries, on the other hand, are exporter of manufacturers and importer of primary commodities from the developing countries. The world over prices of primary products exported by developing countries are falling and hence terms of trade for primary products are worsening, putting developing countries at great disadvantage because these countries drive substantial share of their income from export of primary commodities. Terms of trade are against developing countries and are in favor of developed countries who export their manufacturers to developing countries at high prices. Moving on to the economic policies of North and UDCs. Terms of trade are against developing countries because of economic policies of the developed countries and are in favor of developed countries who export manufactured goods at higher rate. Developed countries are referred to as North and developing countries are referred to as South. The gap between rich and poor, that is North and South, is widening due to terms of trade. Economic growth and income of the UDC are being affected by fall in prices of agricultural products and steady rise in the prices of manufactured goods imported from developed countries. Agriculture prices are given well below compared to developed countries and industrial goods prices are charged higher by developed countries, which may be due to exchange rate overvaluation and restrictive import tariffs. Both short-term factors and long-term factors are affecting adversely imports of manufactured goods and export of agriculture products. Short-run factors are changes in crops and monetary conditions, etc. Long-run factors are changes in technological upgradation, technical innovations, changes in income, taste and preferences, etc. All these factors work to the advantage of developed countries and disadvantage of developing countries. Next, we shall discuss the destabilizing prices of agriculture products and UDCs. The matter of destabilizing prices of agriculture products of underdeveloped countries attracted the attention of UN in 1952. The UN report suggested buffer stocks and setting up marketing board for agriculture products which increase their adaptability to weather and market conditions are advised developed countries not to indulge in bulk buying and stockpiling of primary products practices as they result in unstable prices affecting adversely the interest of underdeveloped countries. According to economists, a fall in the prices of agricultural products of UDCs in 1956-57 by 7.5% led to loss of export earning of UDCs by $35,000 to $40,000. Developed countries in turn are also affected adversely to some extent because of the fall in the demand for manufactured goods by the underdeveloped countries following fall in the price of agriculture products. An upswing in the prices of agriculture products can be highly favorable to the UDC as it improves their income and wealth, but a fall in agriculture product prices will hit hard the economic conditions of the UDCs. Now we shall discuss the industrialization and the UDCs. The wide disparities in level of income between UDCs and developed countries have inspired the UDC to industrialize so that they can achieve higher rates of economic growth and raise the standard of living of the people, for which import of capital goods from developed countries and export of agricultural products was imperative. However, in view of falling prices of agricultural products and increasing prices of imported capital goods have adversely affected industrialization of UDCs beside capital efficiency and technological improvement deficiency, which are widely found in UDCs. Now let us discuss unfavorable terms of trade and India. Before 1974-75, India's terms of trade with trading countries were favorable. Index of unit value of export was rising faster than the index of unit value of imports. However, since 1974-75, terms of trade have been generally against India and favorable to developed countries. Prices of Indian exports were rising at smaller rates as compared to the prices of Indian imports, which were recording higher growth rates per annum. The problem of adverse terms of trade can be tackled by import substitution so that commodities which are imported in India are produced at home or their substitutes are found. Secondly, export promotion can also solve the problem arising out from adverse terms of trade. For instance, there is no need to import electronic goods, toys, etc. from abroad as they can be produced in India. Made in India campaign of the government is warranted stop to tackle the problem of adverse terms of trade and low rate of economic growth. At one time, international rates of growth to trade in manufacturers and trade in primary products are closely related. It was held that manufacturers entered in world trade mainly due to by primary products. Subsequently, growth of trade in manufacturers increased because of willingness of manufacturing countries to trade amongst themselves. Meyer, in his book Terms of Trade, has analyzed determinants of terms of trade of manufacturers from 1880s to 1950s, which relate growth of trade in manufacturers to the growth of total trade and rate of growth of production of manufacturers. Next, we discuss the adverse relation between primary products and the manufacturers. Conventional two-sector analysis of terms of trade shows that the industry sector is direct beneficiary of adverse terms of trade against agriculture sector. If terms of trade are favorable to industrial sector, they are unfavorable to agriculture sector and vice versa. Domestic terms of trade and the three-sector model. Three-sector analysis of terms of trade can be done within a country. It is contended that investment in other sectors of the economy like industry and service sector can be financed by agriculture surplus as was done in Russia. Thus, domestic terms of trade were regarded as an instrument to transfer surplus resources from agriculture sector to other sectors of the economy. It has been found in some studies that transfer of resources out of agriculture to other sectors is possible if productivity of agriculture is raised. In some countries, agricultural productivity has been raised at the initiative of the government by adopting effective agricultural price policy, which made it possible to transfer resources from agriculture to other sectors of the economy. Terms of trade favorable to agriculture may be used to extract surplus from agriculture to finance development of industrial sector and the service sector. It should be noted that agricultural terms of trade improve. The adversely affected are poor people, both in rural and urban areas, as with the rise in the prices of agricultural produce, they have to spend more money on food, adversely affecting their economic conditions. Now coming to India and multi-sector terms of trade. Multi-sector terms of trade analysis in case of India has been done in a PhD thesis by Surajit Deb, who has found in his empirical study that terms of trade gain in Indian economy has been availed by the industrial sector. Many countries of the world, including India, have been slowed down in industrial sector. Economic policy for correcting adverse terms of trade against agriculture sector has resulted in high cost agriculture in the developing countries following price protection by the government. Let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. Terms of trade as a policy instrument is used to correct bias against agriculture, which is a weak instrument for increasing agricultural growth. Technological upgradation, innovations and investment would go a long way in increasing agriculture productivity rather than terms of trade as policy instrument, because terms of trade as policy instrument is to improve one sector at the cost of the other sector, that is agriculture at the cost of industry and industry at the cost of agriculture.